Joining us now from Washington is William Pomeranz. He's the Deputy Director of the Kennan Institute for Advanced Russian Studies at the Woodrow Wilson Center, a nonpartisan think tank based in Washington. Always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Is this new trade agreement with the European Union a step in the right direction for Ukraine?
Well, it is a step in the right direction for Ukraine. It's going to open up European markets that will allow for increased trade with Europe. Unfortunately, it also poses a big problem for Russia, which has its own free trade zone with Ukraine, and now will invariably lead to a response from Russia, who fears cheap European goods cutting into Russia via Ukraine.
The crisis over the past months can be traced back to Yanukovych rejecting this deal. So what kind of statement is Poroshenko making as Ukraine's new president?
He is making a very powerful statement. He is essentially saying that Ukraine has decided to move more towards the West, more towards Europe, more towards democracy and open markets. This is a very powerful message. This was the message of the Maidan, and this is a message that Russia finds threatening for domestic purposes. So invariably, it will produce a response from Russia.
And what do you think that response will be?
I think Russia is going to introduce increased tariffs, increased protectionist measures that will try to decrease trade with Ukraine. It will try to squeeze Ukraine, as it already has, through cutting off natural gas supplies. So I expect that Russia will engage in this issue and will defend its market as it sees appropriate.
What more can we expect from Poroshenko?
Well, I think Mr. Poroshenko is very engaged in terms of constitutional change. In fact, he has proposed various amendments to the Constitution that would decentralize the government and transfer more powers to the regions. But we also have the ongoing crisis in eastern Ukraine. And the ceasefire was, in theory, supposed to end today. It might be extended, but he still has the problem of two regions that are actively opposed to the current regime and are using military force to express that opposition.
And what do you think the relationship will be like between Poroshenko and Putin?
Well, there are various different interpretations of it. Some people insist that some sort of deal can be reached between Poroshenko and Putin. Putin has toned down the rhetoric against Ukraine, but he hasn't followed the change in rhetoric with a change in actions and a change with the situation on the ground. It is a very tense situation, and there is still a possibility that the military situation can get outside the control of Russia.
All right, William Pomeranz with the Woodrow Wilson Center in Washington. We thank you as always for your expertise.